Welcome to Storylines Live, the only podcast that explores the meaning and the power of the most important story in business. The one that answers why someone should buy from you, work for you, invest in you, or partner with you. This is the story that defines the very character and nature of an organization. At Vendilli, we call it your capital S story. In each episode, we feature guests who have great insights on business storytelling, who can share their experiences and key learnings to help you and your business do a better job of sharing your capital S story to deliver remarkable business results. Today, we're honored to have Elise Giese as our guest, and Elise and I know each other very well, which I think you'll find throughout our conversation. I have to say, Elise has taken a journey of tens of thousands of miles to be here with us on Storylines. Born and raised in South Africa, she built a successful corporate career in banking before she had one of those life-changing moments. My wife went through these. Her husband, Mark, came home one day and asked if she would consider moving to Pennsylvania in the United States. Well, she said yes. And within 3 weeks, her family had relocated, and Elise, as an innovator and strategic thinker, began a path that led her to become a Vistage Chair here in Pittsburgh. In fact, she's my chair. Through Vistage, the world's largest CEO organization, and through her private coaching business, Elise is helping leaders to make better decisions that produce better outcomes, thus making them better leaders. Her career with fascinating experiences led Elise here today to share how her story as a business leader can benefit the business leaders she works with every day. And in her business, Elise works with business leaders to grow their businesses and develop strong, aligned leadership through Vistage. In addition to that journey of thousands of miles, she and Mark and their 2 children are learning what it means to be a Pittsburgher. Elise, anything I missed in your background that you'd like to add?
That's a great overview. You can maybe just add that I'm trying to learn the American football rules, which are
Okay.
not as simple, not as simple as it seems, but we are having so much fun and we are so grateful for the amazing community here in Pittsburgh. Everyone is so friendly and welcoming. So we've had a great time.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. We like to say, those of us who've been here for a while, that Pittsburgh is like the biggest small town in the world. And it's amazing and not all that common to have somebody with such a great international background as you do
Yeah.
to be here. So, typically when we have a guest on Storylines Live, I like to ask several questions actually, Elise, about their story. And,
Mm.
and one of the most important is, as I said in the intro, and I say in every episode, we try to define that capital S story, and we ask our guests which of those 4 questions that I asked, buy from you, work for you, invest in you, or partner with you, is most important for you and your business right now.
Yeah, for me, it's about partnering, Paul. I think that, so much of my story, and we can go into that, is about, people that I've worked with, people that I've learned from, mentors that I have had in my past. And I think that reflecting back on that just, amplifies how important these people are in our lives, these partnerships we have, these impacts that they make on us. I mean, everyone that we engage with molds us in a different way, and I think being intentional about that, and having this kind of mindset of curiosity and learning, I think is such an important thing that'll help you in every avenue of your life because we can learn from everyone. So I think, that has been such a big part of my story and just continuing to kind of, gain new perspectives. And I think that's probably why I said yes to Mark when he said, "Do you want to move to Pittsburgh?" My first reaction was, what a great adventure.
Hmm.
And what a great way to learn from new people, gain new perspectives, see things from a different light, just learn from other people and see how people live and do things and make decisions. And I think something that's really important to me as well, and you know how important my family is to me. What example am I setting for my kids? Like, what a great thing for them to early in their life just broaden their horizons and open their eyes up to how people live in different countries. And I think all of those things have gotten me to where I am today. And it almost like highlights how impactful decisions can be in our lives. What if I said no? Like, how different would our lives look now? Isn't it interesting to reflect back on your journey, going, every decision you made has gotten you to where you are today?
Wow, that's really awesome, and I wanna unpack that a little bit. By the way, for those of you watching and listening, I just want you to know that one of Elise's great skills is asking fantastic questions, and she has often asked, me and other, members of, Vistage, "What if you said no?" So
And
those
today
are
I
some
have to answer the questions.
That's right. Well, okay, so can you share with our audience a little bit? Because you and I obviously have had some conversations, one-on-one. I mean, you not only came to the States from a different country, you came from a different continent, and you spent some time in several countries in Africa. What's business like in Africa compared to what it's like here in the States?
Yeah, it's so interesting, Paul. So, early in my career, I've always had the benefit of getting kind of new opportunities, right? So, um, you know, early on, I was in like the M&A division of our bank. So I've mostly been in commercial banking. So I've worked with small and medium-sized businesses my entire career, and I've always loved speaking to entrepreneurs and business owners because they're so passionate about what they do, and their whole life is in it, and you can just like feel the energy when you speak to them. And it's just, it's so enlightening and so energizing having those conversations. And I started off in kind of this deal making M&A kind of role, and
Mm,
then over time I had the opportunity to go and kind of do our international expansion. So I was working for the largest banking group in Africa, and we were primarily in South Africa, and then we decided to go into emerging markets. So we went into 8 African countries. Then we realized India and China is a big trading partner for Africa. So we started banks there, and I had the privilege of going to China with some of my colleagues and learning a bit of Mandarin, and it was really amazing. But what was always interesting for me is that, like, when you go and when you're expanding your business, you can't just copy and paste what has worked previously. And I think we so easily do that, right? We often think this has gotten me to where I am today.
mhm,
And, if I do more of the same, it'll kind of take me into the future. But I mean, we kind of know, is Einstein who says if you kind of keep doing the same thing and expecting a different result,
right,
the thinking you have up to now has gotten you where you are today.
exactly.
If you want to do different things, if you want to grow, and if you want to do change things going forward, you need to start thinking differently.
Mhm,
And in my banking career, it was so interesting because so often we would say South Africa is our biggest market. We're by far the largest market share. Copy and paste and put that in Zambia, put that in Mozambique, put that wherever. And so often our colleagues in the country would be like, but it's not the same. Like, we
mhm,
don't, the culture is different. The way in which we do business is different. So for me, I learned very early on that you need to be very adaptable. You need to take the lessons that you had from the past, but then be flexible enough to mold them to where you are today. Use that learning, appreciate what you know, but then
mhm,
understand where you are right now and adapt to where you are now. So I think for me, working in different countries, that was a huge lesson. And I think, sure, the cultures are slightly different and, regulations are slightly different, but I think the fundamentals of owning a business remain the same. And I think that, being able to have had the exposure in like 11 different countries that I've worked, and now the US is the 12th, I think that brings a really interesting perspective for me when I work with business owners now, because
yes.
sure, the US is slightly different, but the basics of how to be a successful leader, how
Mhm,
to have new strategies, how to think about new things. I have been in so many different situations, and I've seen so many different cultures, ideas, strategies at play. I think all of that has really supported me in bringing new ideas and perspectives and kind of being that objective, almost like sounding board for my clients. I often almost feel like, as much as I love like problem solving and talking to people about new things, you almost like are a mirror to a person, just going, you know, this is what I heard. Is this what you mean? How did you think about that? And I think so often just having that moment with someone, just to reflect on what you're thinking. I often see people as I speak to them, as they're explaining to me what they're thinking or how they're approaching something, they're almost like figuring it out as they're saying aloud. You could almost like see that processing happen.
Hmm.
And I remember one of my mentors early on said to me, "You can't read the label from inside the jar."
Yes.
And I so often feel like I'm the person who's on the outside of the jar just going, let's quickly look from the outside. Let's just get that new perspective and make sure we are so often in the detail and just
Yes,
help
we are.
someone to help you move back a little bit, I think be quite valuable.
I mean, what you shared, so many knowledge bombs there that it's just amazing to me. And one of the reasons I wanted to have you on the podcast is because of this great experience you've had working in so many countries. One of the main taproots for us at Vendillion in our story crafting process is the mythologist Joseph Campbell. And for our those watching and listening, if you don't know the story, he wrote this great book called The Hero with a Thousand Faces, which was the output of him traveling the world, actually almost 100 years ago during the Depression, and discovering that no matter what country he went to, regardless of language or economic attainment, culture, as human beings, we're telling the same stories over and over again. And what I get from what you shared, Elise, is that when it comes to running a great business, human nature and human behavior, our biology, even though we need to be absolutely focused on adapting to the cultures and to the language and to the norms and to the customs, business is still people to people. And it's as we say at our firm, it's the process of moving hearts and minds to inspire action. And whether you're a nonprofit that's trying to help people in need or get donors, or whether you're a for-profit business and you're looking to get people to buy your product or service that you sell, this extremely translatable skills.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, so often in our Vistage group, we talk about people, right? I mean, there's what is actually a business? Sure, there's systems and there's products, etc. But if you walk into a hotel and there are no people, it's just a building. And
That's right.
so often, our businesses are about relationships, and so frequently, people are worried about AI and what is technology doing and how much can we automate. And my background's engineering, so I'm all about like, ooh, cool new tech and how can it make our lives easier, and especially repeatable kind of things, right? So
Mhm.
how can we, remove that kind of resistance and use and embrace technology to take away the almost like mundane work?
Yeah.
But then our job becomes so much more important from a relationship perspective. How are we pulling our teams together? How are we aligning people? How are we getting people's hearts into the mission and the vision of where we're going? Because that's what makes the difference. I often think about, we want people to give discretionary energy. You
Yeah.
don't want people just to kind of 8 to 5, okay, I get to leave now. You
Yes.
want people who care. You want people who want to do the best for the client. You want people to really love what they do. And I
Mhm.
think from a leadership perspective, that's what we're there to do. We have to get people's hearts and minds invested in what we're doing. And then, like, a team is basically unstoppable.
Exactly. And that is a great place to pause. Folks, we're going to take a quick break for this message. And when we come back, we're going to dig into how Elise works with business leaders to help them achieve just what she described. Don't go away. We'll be right back. Welcome back, folks, to Storylines Live, the only podcast that explores the power and the meaning of the most important story in business, the one that answers why somebody would buy from you, work for you, invest in you, or partner with you. In this episode, we're honored to have my Vistage Chair, Elize Giese, whose great international business experience informs her every day and helping leaders to become better at making decisions and creating great outcomes. So, Elise, I want to really focus the second half of our time together on you and what you do. So could you give our audience a sense, how do you help the people in the businesses you serve?
Mm. I see myself as like a growth partner for a
Mm.
business.
Oh, wow.
So, I'm all about helping people achieve their outcomes. And the beauty of what we do in Vistage is that we combine one-on-one coaching where you can really get into what's important for the leader and helping them grow as a leader. And then we also have our peer groups where you get to learn from all the incredible people in the room, all these like-minded, growth-minded leaders, where you get to basically accelerate your growth. I mean, you don't have to go through all the lessons yourself. You can learn from all these great people in the room that sincerely want you to succeed. And I think that is such an important part of
Yes.
our Vistas experience. It's the confidentiality, it's the relationships you build with people. It's
Mhm.
people, it's like your own, personal group of advisors slash a
Board of
cheerleading
directors.
team, right? So I almost feel
Yeah.
like they're your cheerleaders and they're kind of the people that will call you out, right? If they feel like you're walking away or kind of avoiding a difficult conversation. So people that care enough about you to give you that feedback when you need it,
Mhm.
but then are also supporting you every step of the way. So I love the Vistage model where it combines both parts.
Yeah, that's a great description. Just a quick aside, we have a vibrant group and we have an active text chain. To the point you made, Elise, these people come to be your friends, and you hang out with them. A couple weeks ago, those of us who were free, we went bocce bowling. We had a great time. And Elise and Mark were there, and all of us brought our significant others. We had a great time. It was really wonderful. Elise, it occurs to me that some of those who are watching or listening may not have a great sense of what exactly Vistage is. Can you give our audience a brief overview of Vistage, please?
Mm. So Vistage is the largest executive coaching organization in the world. We have 45,000 members worldwide in most continents of the world. And we have a structure where there are chairs. So I'm a chair and we have 5 others in Pittsburgh. And we lead these peer groups. So we, find again, like growth-minded leaders, business owners in the community. And we then work with them to make a bigger impact. That's what I see myself as. How am I helping you achieve the impact you want to make? And from a leadership perspective, impact is so big, because
For
it's
sure.
the impact you have on your team. It impacts their families. It's how you're supporting and serving your community. So it's bringing people together that have this kind of common goal of doing good in the community and being growth minded. And then we help them from a one-on-one coaching perspective, and then a peer advisory board where we bring people together on a monthly basis and just have this incredible think tank masterminding experience of learning and immersing ourselves.
Mhm.
And what's always so interesting for me is that the first time I'll speak to a business owner, they'll be like, "Please, there is no way I can step out of my business for one entire day of the month." And then over time, then there are people like you that have been in Vistage for 10, 15 years. They're people that choose to say, I'm a lifelong learner. Not only I'm learning from my chair and my conversations,
Mhm.
I'm learning from my group, but I'm also learning from world-class speakers that we bring in every month just to teach us best practices and challenge our thinking and give us new ideas. And I think, I really look forward to those sessions because you never know what's going to happen, but there's this incredible learning experience.
Yeah.
And I think, someone that's considering Vistage, if you're a growth minded person who's curious, who wants to learn, who acknowledges that you don't know everything, those are the kinds of people that really thrive within our environment.
Wow, that's a great description. And just to kind of add from my perspective, because as you mentioned, I've been a Vistage member, well, since 2007. So
There you
that's
go.
getting up there. And I've been in this group the whole time. That one-on-one experience in the chief executive group that I'm in, you have the opportunity to meet with your chair, in my case, Elise, once a month, and that's that one-on-one time. The groups, the peer advisory boards, none of your competitors are in there, which sometimes people are concerned about that. And like Elise has said, Elise, you've got the opportunity to have that board of directors or the cheerleading team who's there with you. We talked earlier in the episode, the most common things that I see in Vistage are the lifelong learning, lots of different personalities, and the issues that we bring to the table. You may say, well, there's only one person from a marketing agency or one accountant or whatever. We all have the same problems, kind of like you shared earlier in the episode
Mhm.
about how business translates across countries and continents. The issues that we deal with as leaders, it's not as important what industry you are in as the kinds of challenges you're facing. And that's where I found Vistage so helpful. And then of course in recent years I've had the privilege to become a Vistage speaker. The speakers are amazing. And, as you said, we'll spend a day or so in a meeting, and you might have a 2 or 3 hour session with somebody who's coming to town just to be with your group.
Mhm.
These are people who've written books, grown companies, are accomplished keynote speakers with amazing thinking and new ideas. I can't say enough about Vistage. When we have new people join our group, typically Elise will ask us to go around and share with the new members something that we have learned from Vistage. And I always say, I use something I learned in Vistage every day. There's absolutely no doubt about that. And it's an amazing organization. There's the member perspective to go along with the chair perspective.
Good. And look, I think the fact that there are people that choose to stay for an extended period like you just shows you that as you grow, there's always more to learn. There's always a depth. You'll never feel like you've learned it all, right? And I've always been of the view that a business grows as quickly as the leader is willing to grow. Because you, as a leader, are setting the boundaries, you're making decisions,
Mhm.
you're taking risks, you're thinking of new ideas, you're innovating, and and that is what you bring to the table. So if you're restricting your growth and your thinking, then you're restricting the business. So I feel like there's this kind of infinite kind of growth
Yeah.
opportunity if you're always willing to learn and kind of gain that new lessons and perspectives.
You've used the phrase several times, growth-oriented leaders, right? I don't think most growth-oriented leaders want to be the brake on the business, right? The constraint that's preventing the business from growing. And that's what you just described is letting off of the brake for sure, and sometimes hitting the gas to spur that growth, right? I always like to ask Elise, what gives you the most satisfaction in your role? What do you love most about being a Vistage chair?
Well, there are many, but I think the one is when you see someone like that moment when someone goes, wow, like I haven't thought about it this way. And it's almost like you're unlocking something that's been holding them back. Like we recently had a speaker that spoke about removing resistance. A big part of leadership is not you sure like you're laying out the path for your team, but it's often about removing resistance to allow your people to rise and lift and kind of
Mhm.
contribute like they want to. And I think so easily our thinking is holding us back. So there's one member in our group that was always working like 12 to 14-hour days and wanting to work more, and there was always so much to do. And he was always like, Elise, how do I step back? How do I not feel guilty for being the person who is there the longest? And I think that's often the thinking that we have. Like there's an old thinking of the
Yes.
more hours is the value. And we had a lot of conversations about, what is the value that you bring to the organization? What do you feel that
Mhm.
you are best suited to do? And I often challenge our members, what are you uniquely positioned to bring to the table?
Oh,
You know,
yes.
we still have a few people where they are scheduling with me for their one-on-ones. I'm like, I shouldn't be speaking to you about this. Like, who's your assistant? Like I'm
Yeah.
challenging you because there's someone else that's better positioned to do that. And they are in that headspace where they can do that really well. Like, why are you doing things that are potentially taking away energy from you and distracting you from what you should be doing? So to
Exactly.
go back to our member, so we were having all of these conversations. And then the other day in the meeting, he says to me, from the guy who was never taking vacations, working 14-hour days, he now says, I only work 2 weeks a month and I'm going skiing in Italy and I'm going to like Park City. And I just thought, isn't that incredible? And I said to
Wow.
him, can we just quickly pause and reflect back on from like 18 months ago or a year ago, the
Mhm.
conversations we were having. Like, are you hearing yourself?
Yes.
And I think it's so important for us to kind of take a pause and just acknowledge the growth that we've had. I almost, when he said that, I almost thought, this is a different person that I'm speaking to. And I think so often it's happening in like small increments for us, but taking that checkpoint and going, wow, like how different is that thinking right now?
Mhm.
And then what is that value you bringing to the business? Because we all know often our best ideas come when we create space.
Oh, wow. Yes.
Like, you don't innovate when I go, Paul, you've got 5 minutes, come up with an amazing idea. That's when you come up with your best ideas, right? It's
Yes,
often when I don't know, people talk about being in the shower or
that's right.
taking a walk.
Yep.
Um, I was launching a new business during the pandemic back in South Africa. And typically, when we kind of did these launches, they would be, you would have like an in-person event and invite everyone and,
Mhm.
have all these speakers and whatever. And obviously, we couldn't do that during the pandemic. You couldn't have in-person events. And I just thought, this was like really big deal. And we were like completely changing the industry and the pension fund world. And I remember thinking, like, I don't know how to do this thing, And
Right.
I used to do a lot of cycling back in South Africa, and I remember my husband and I, and we had like a whole group of us. We went out for a ride, and we would often on a Sunday morning go for like a 4-hour ride. And it
Wow.
was really this incredible, just, you're in the fresh air, you're seeing the sunrise, it's early in the morning, you're just kind of zoning out and just being in this amazing space with friends. And often you start by chatting and then it kind of goes quiet. You almost can just be in your own space. And I remember finishing a ride and looking to my husband going, I know exactly what we need to do. And isn't that amazing? It wasn't like I was, intentionally thinking about it, but it was
Mhm.
just creating the space for your mind to kind of figure it out. And we had this incredible online event and we had like fun, kind of collaborations with different people. And I had my whole team on the call and it was just such a great event. But it was just because I created space to think that
Yes.
the idea came to me.
Wow. And I think that's a great place to put a bow on this. Elise, it's been great to have you on Storylines Live. What you just described is what Vistage is. It's that opportunity to have that cleared space as you were sharing just now. I thought of so many times I've been in a meeting listening to a speaker or to one of my peers in the group talk about an issue that they're having, but being away from the business and being in a separate space, I'm having those epiphanies about things I need to do. And I'm writing down ideas so that I don't forget them. That's just such a great thing to share. Elise, how can our audience find you? Where's the best place to find you? Online, in person?
Yeah. If anyone wants to know about Vistage, vistage.com will have all the information. I'm most active on LinkedIn, so you'll find me on Elize Giese on LinkedIn, and where we're sharing all kinds of great things that we're busy with. Most social media platforms under my own name. So yeah, always excited to connect with great people and have a conversation.
Elise, it's been so great to have you on. Really appreciate it. Folks, we'll have the links in the show notes. And I want to say thank you to all of you in the audience who joined us for this episode of Storylines Live, the only podcast that explores the power and the meaning of the most important story in business, the one that answers why somebody should buy from you, work for you, invest in you, or partner with you. Your capital S story. We'll see you next time.